In this episode, I'm going to show you how to make the prisoner's pillar. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Game Terrain Engineering. I'm DM Jim, and in this episode I'm going to show you how to make something that has been covered by other crafters. DM Scotty has his own way of creating pillars. Jeremy over at Black Magic Craft, he has a demo on making pillars. And I believe Wylock also has his own pillar video. You know, I've watched so many videos, they sort of run together and you forget who has made what. But what's fun about watching all these videos is seeing the different methods that these guys use to create elements for the game table. I have an upcoming game that requires a certain element on the game table. Actually requires two of them. And so I've started building one of them, which you saw in the intro. I'm calling it the prisoner's pillar. And as you can see, it's 6.5 inches tall. And as you can see, I've got chains put on it. These chains are different lengths. There's long ones for large creatures, and then there's shorter ones for human-sized creatures. And I'm working on some middle lengths here. I'm having a little issue with some of the chain, the coloring. It's too silver. So I'm not even sure if I'm going to finish those because I actually like the way it turned out. But my method for creating this is a little different than some of the others. I originally went to the hobby shop looking for large foam like marshmallows, kind of like Scotty uses to make his pillars. And he uses 3 of them. He uses these right here. Let me show you. Right there, these little pillars. And he takes 3 of them, and I'll put a link to the video right there. You know, he puts these together, puts a cap on top and bottom, and they make great little pillars. And I've done like 7 or 8 of them. And you know, these are foam, and you can get them at a craft store. And I needed something taller, and you know, 4 or 5 of these, I thought it just won't look right. This 3, for some reason, was the magic number with this particular size. I also needed them to be a bigger diameter. These were just too small. So I knew that I was going to be basically looking at building up layers, and so that's what I've got here. As you continue to watch the video, you're going to see how I cut these out with the Proxxonn. The Proxxonn is a fun little tool if you've got one. If you don't have one and you're doing a lot of crafting with foam, it's well worth the investment. I'm going to put a link in the bottom. Jeremy over at Black Magic Craft, he has some sort of partnership with Proxxonn. He gets to test out a lot of their, their new toys. And he's got a link on his website where if you're going to buy a Proxxonn, at least buy it from him, and so that it encourages him to continue to do more videos. I had mine a long time before he did that. Otherwise, I would have bought mine through Jeremy. But again, the Proxxonn is a great way to make things, and I came up with my own method, and there are many methods for creating circles with a Proxxonn. And you're going to see my method, which is very cheap and inexpensive and easy. It involves a paper clip and a piece of chipboard and some tape. And that's how I cut all these circles. These are done in 1/2 inch and, you know, glued together, painted up with black, gray, and some other highlights, and then I added the chain, and you end up with this. I hope you like it, and if you want to see how this was made, keep watching. I am wanting to make some columns of a certain height, and I can use 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch foam, because that's what I have in my workshop. And I need to make a bunch of them. So first thing I want to do is I want to decide the diameter. I know I want to make roughly 2 inch diameter columns. Not roughly, as close to 2 inches as I can. Now, cutting those out with a knife and drawing a circle and cutting them out with foam is kind of irritating. I'm not able to cut curves as accurately as the Proxxonn can. So what I want to show you here is my solution for cutting circles out of foam. And I've tested this with 1/4 inch and 1/2 inch. I have not tested it with anything thicker because I don't have access to foam that thick. So what I've got here is a piece of chipboard. I drew a line down the center and I measured off in 1/2 inch increments, okay? And then with a needle, I just made a hole, and I haven't done this on all of them. I wanted to show you. So I didn't do it on the, I didn't do it on the 10. So this would make a 10 inch diameter, because this is 5 inches. This would make a 10 inch diameter circle of foam. So I just wiggle the needle through the hole, and then I sort of wiggle it out. Then what you want to is you want to take a paper clip, just a standard paper clip, bend a leg up like this, insert it into the hole. Now I told you I want to make 2-inch diameter columns, so I'm gonna put it in on the 2 here. So I just stick it in there like this. And you want to secure the paper clip so it doesn't move around. And so I'll just take a piece of tape and I will tape it over that like that so it doesn't move. All right. Then I put a piece of sticky tape down, or just double-sided here on the plate. I want to square it up with this line and make this center line follow the center line here. Just push it up against the wire, press it down. That's not exactly center, right about there. There we go. And then what I do, just for a little added security, I just put some tape down over it like this so that the chipboard actually does not spin. All right, there we go. So the next thing you need to do, and obviously you want to make sure the needle is straight up and down as you can. You can see it right here. And there we go. All right, I have a box of scrap foam I keep. So let's do some test cuts. First thing I'll do is 2-inch diameter. That may not be wide enough. Let's see. I'll just use this. This is a 3-inch that I tested a while back. So what you do is you just poke a hole, put the foam up against the wire, press down. Okay. Now I don't care about the damage the hole makes because that's going to be covered when I stack these things. Turn it on and just start rotating. There we go, 2-inch diameter with a little hole in the center there. That one's from the 3-inch one. So that is 1/4 inch. Let's see how it does with 1/2 inch. I know I've got a piece of 1/2 inch here. Here we go, just an old piece here. Now for this, I'm gonna crank up the heat just a little bit because it's going through a thicker foam. Going to stick it on. Now what some people do is you can cut a start line like that. You can cut out a little indentation, and then what you do is you fit the wire into the indentation and push down. There's the I don't know if you can see it, but there's the paper clip coming through, and then we'll turn it on and start spinning. Now I found that the 1/2 inch foam cuts a lot smoother than the 1/4 inch, and I guess it's because of the thickness. It stays on the needle hole a little better. And let's see, I guess I should have let myself out. There we go. And there we go. Now this one's not perfect because when I was spinning it, I don't know if you saw in the video, I made a little mistake on the edge. But what I want to do is I need to cut out a bunch of these. Maybe I want to make the columns pretty tall, maybe 5 or 6 inches. So I'll need to cut out 2 of these for each inch of height. And then the next thing I'm going to do is, just for randomness, I want a brick pattern on this. So I'm just going to use the Proxxonn to make little indentations. And I'm not doing it I'm randomly doing it. I want it to be a sort of a no pattern, no discernible pattern to it. I'll do some that are close to each other and some that are far apart. And it'll give it, and then when these are stacked, it'll give it that nice mixed stone feeling. And then the final thing I'm going to do with them is I always tend to dull the edges around the foam. You know, this is a very sharp edge because of the cut, and it shouldn't be like that. Stone should have sort of a worn, rounded edge where it's been chiseled. So I just go around the edges and just dull the edge like that, and I do it on both sides. And that'll add an extra feature that when these things are stacked, you know, that will form an artificial line similar to these. And then of course I'll just hit the foam all over with the aluminum just to give it a stone random pattern. You could ignore this step if you wanted to make smooth stone, but there you go. That would be one done, and I'll need to make a whole ton more. So I'm going to time-lapse this, and I'm going to make a whole bunch more. I have 10 of these cut out. Total combined height will be a 5-inch pillar plus the whatever I decide to do for the top and bottom of the pillar. So as you can see, I've cut lines into them. I've also chiseled out some sections like this just to give them some wear and tear. And now I need to glue them together. So I'm heating up the hot glue gun here. I'll get these stacked and then I'll work on the ends. Now for these, for the jagged pieces, I don't want those too close to each other, so I'm going to set those aside. I've got 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I've got 6 of the standard type. So I'm just going to try to mix them up a little bit. Let's see if the glue's heating up. It's getting there. All right. Tell you right now, I love this glue gun that DM Scotty recommended. What I don't like is the on-off button. I frequently find myself accidentally turning it off. I don't know if any of you have these, but I have more than once found myself picking it up and squeezing it and not having any glue come out because I accidentally turned it off and didn't realize it. But that's my only complaint about that little gun. It is a great little, I love the metal tip for smearing, and it does heat up very hot. But I do not like the fact that I accidentally turn it off so much. Okay, there's the majority of the column. I still got to make the top and bottom part. I haven't decided if I'm going to make those square or round and just larger. I think I'm going to go round, larger, and I may see about beveling them. I'm going to try to figure out how to do that. On the Proxxonn, it's probably going to involve just setting the wire at an angle. But I hope you like that. I love the lines. I love the different diameters. It's very imperfect, the different circular pieces. But when they're all glued and stacked together, it looks like a it's going to look like a real stone column instead of one solid piece of foam. So let me work on the tops now. I'm going to go. These are 2 inches, so I'm going to go with. Let's go with 3-inch diameter. Let me see. I had a 3-inch piece. What happened to it? No, that's going to be too big. Too big. So I'll go with 2.5, just slightly larger, which means I'll have to make a hole in between the 2 and the 3 on my Proxxonn sheet here. Okay, I am done with the cutting of circles for now. So I am going to take my sheet off here. Now the Proxxonn can cut angles or bevels, and I'm trying to remember how you do this. You got to angle it. Yeah, I remember now. So what you have to do is you need a compass like this, and you move this piece back so that the angle of the wire, is at the 45 degree or whatever angle you want. I don't want a 45 degree. I want more like a 70 or a 60 degree. So what I'll do is I'll put this on here, and I'm going to loosen this because I need to feed out a little more wire probably. And this piece slides back. See that? So what I want to do is I want to tighten it down again. Tighten it so the wire stays. Go to 60, which is right about, I'm going to do 70. That looks good. 70. Okay. Close enough. Tighten this. Okay. Tighten this. Okay. I'm going to turn this sideways so you can, I don't know if you can see it, so let me put a piece of paper behind it here. You'll be able to see the wire. You see the wire? It's at an angle. All right, so now with that done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this into the wire, and then I'm going to visually just edge it. All right, that should have done it. Yeah, much nicer. And then what I'm going to do for the bottom piece is just rough it up with the aluminum. And then what I'll have is something that looks like that. I don't know if you can see that, but yeah, oh, I like that. See, yeah, another good one. So there you go, sit on top. This one will come around on the bottom like that. Of course, I'm gonna have to rough up the top of this one, fill in this this hole right here, and make this one look ugly. I'll gouge it a little bit and roughen up the final piece, but not too bad. I like that. Nice big column. All right, I am done with the Proxxonn. Now I got to glue these on and then paint the thing. While I wait for the glue gun to heat up, here are my two bases. This one, the hole is very small, so I'll make that the top so I don't have to worry about filling it in with any kind of filler. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm just going to gouge out some pieces from the top, some small pieces, some large pieces. I am also going to rough it up with the aluminum, rough up the edge a little bit. All right, give it some cracks. All right. And then finally, since this is the top, there's a little bit around the edge here that will be seen. So I'll rough that up too. All right, so that will go in there. Still needs to be roughened up a little bit more. Maybe gouge out an edge. Go. All right, let's see. Yeah, that'll do. All right, so that one will go on the top. Now to decide, does it look better this way or this way? Don't think it really matters. I don't want this on the top. I want that on the bottoms because it's more visible. So I'll make this the bottom, this the top. So since this is the top piece, I will put some glue down on here. Try to center it. It's not very good. That's better. All right, here we go. I now have a base, and that's the top. All right, and then this will be the bottom. So I need to rough up the top surface here. Gouge it out a little bit. also want to roughen up the bottom edge because it just looks too pretty, too smooth. All right, that's a little better. See, does that look right? That looks good. Okay, some more hot glue down here. It's not quite center. Okay, that's centered. There we go. All right. Come on, there we go. All right, boom. All done. Time for the black bombing. The black bombing is done on the column, and now it is time to coat it with a gray. I'm going to use a sponge, and I have a lot of different grays, and I've just picked up this one. It's just dark gray. I'm going to give it a shot and see what it looks like. And just a little bit on there. And again, I always wet the sponge and then sort of cut it. I don't cut a rectangle pattern. I get a square, and then I damage it a little bit. Just give it some wear and tear. All right, let's give this a shot. The last thing I'm going to do paint-wise for this is I'm going to go around the edges with a lighter gray, just for highlighting purposes. I'm going to use the sponge again. All right, pretty happy with it. Just some very subtle highlights here and there. Nothing not on every brick. Just a few places, and then along the edging. Now, the only thing I want to do for this is I would like to glue some of these little metal rings. I'm going to glue them around, and then add some empty chains, sort of like you would chain a prisoner in. That's the next step, and that will finish up this pillar. The next step for my pillar is to add some chains of various thickness and length to the pillar. The idea for this is I wanted to create, and I plan on creating a second one of these, and they'll have chains hanging down where you could, either put them over a miniature to signify they're in chains, or you could maybe figure a way to wrap it around their arms. But a tall pillar like this, you could put a large or a huge or even a gargantuan miniature in here, and with the right chain, say for this thicker chain right here, if you put enough of these, you could use two pillars with the chains to simulate, chaining a dragon, for example, or something like that. So over time, I have collected chain. I typically buy it either on sale or when I get one of those 50% or 60% off coupons. I look for these big rolls. Usually if you get they're usually about $10, but with a 50% off, you can get it for $5, and you'll have all the chain you ever need for life. You can also buy, you know, shorter lengths like this one. I think I got this one for $1.50, and it's sort of a brown, copper. It's hard to, the color's a little hard to say, but what I always look for is actual chain. You know, it looks like a chain, you know, the length of chain. Some of the stuff that you can buy is very fancy, and it just doesn't have that dungeon look, you know, of what you would find, you know, that would be handmade, you know, out of iron or whatever. And the way I'm going to attach these to the pillar, these little things right here are called eye pins. Right here, kind of hard to see. And they come in different lengths. This is 120 pieces. They're short, medium, and long pieces. And basically, it's just a needle with an eye on the end. Now, I could have glued the chain link or hot glued the chain link, but I don't think that looks good. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these eye pins to push into the foam, and I'll do it at an angle instead of straight in. If you go at an angle, if it cuts through at least 2 different layers of foam, it just provides more security. Now, granted, you can pull it out. I'm not going to glue it. I guess I could put some super glue, but I don't want any glue visible on this. For the eye pin, you need a pair of pliers to sort of open it up. You just, you know, open up the eye just a little bit. Put a piece of chain in there. Seal it back up. Okay, like that. So I'm going to push this into the foam right here. Just going to push it down. It's hard. I mean, it gets, there we go. All right, I don't know if you can see that. And so the pin is actually in the foam. There's no glue visible. And I'm going to cut the chain slightly past the base here. I want to give some that could be wrapped around, say, a miniature's arms. So what I'll do is I'll pull it down and I'll just go with a standard. I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll go 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'll go 10 lengths. So I count off 10 links and I just cut a link like that. And there we go. I have a piece of chain hanging down. And I'm going to space these around at this level. So I'm going to time lapse this so that you don't have to watch me cut and pin all this chain. All right, the lower chain is done. I've placed 4 of them sort of equidistant around the base of the pillar. You can see they extend below, but that's because if I want to chain a figure, I want to give just enough to sort of loop around the mini to indicate that it's chained. I've cut 4 identical lengths here. I've got 4 of the eye pins, and I'm just going to do it the exact same way. But this time, what I'm going to do is alternate. I don't want the chains, you know, getting all tangled up. So I'm going to try and space them, you know, so all the chains are visible no matter where they are. So here's the distance between, you know, the 2 short ones. I want this one to sort of fall in between. So I'll just eyeball it right about there. Push it down. Come on now. These pins, you got to be careful. They bend really easy when they hit resistance, like glue, especially hot glue. So there we go. That one hangs down. I don't know if you can see this very well, but I've got 2 shorter lengths and the longer one. So I'm going to go ahead and time lapse this next piece and get the remaining 3 long pieces added on. And that's it. That's how you make this pillar. Now I could have made it taller, I could have made it shorter, but at this diameter, which was I think it was 2 inches, this just looked good. I kept cutting and putting together until I established the height I need. And it was tall enough that I could handle, you know, you could put, if you, any large miniature or gargantuan even, and you could link the chains around it or whatever. And if you had a second one, which I'm making a second one, you would put them, you know, on the sides and have them holding a very large creature. But the human size, you know, you only need 1 of these and 2 chains would suffice. If you're, you know, if you're feeling a little macabre, you could paint some blood stains on this, or put some hot glue and paint it red for little chunks of meat, whatever you want to do. I prefer to keep mine clean, And as you can see, the chains are a little longer, and that just gives me a little extra to loop around a miniature or to, stretch out between two. So I hope you liked this. It was fun to make, very, very fast. Cutting it and painting it took no time at all. The chain, if you don't have, again, you can find that at the craft store in all colors. Do not buy this silver. It's just too hard to tone down that silver finish. So there you go, the Prisoner's Pillar, and hope you can make one. And if you do, I'd love to see it. Upload a photo, put a link in the comments below, and let me take a look. But until next time, this is DM Jim, and I'll see you in the next episode.